So Jay can't keep quiet because he knows that he's being made a fool. And he did it to himself. He doesn't know the basic difference between tafwid al-mana and tafwid al-kayfiyya. This is basic. And he says, oh, well, your God is just a God of the Arabs. No. But if you read our literature in the same way that I know the difference between usia, which is essence, and I understand the term homoousion, I don't speak Greek, I don't speak Latin, but I understand these terms because I've read several dozen books on the subject to be acquainted with the
attaching. It has to do with how we predicate. That's the argument here.
So what does it mean?
That's why I asked you about the foot, and I asked you if a God foot is nothing like a human foot. What does it tell us? What's the meaning that's given us there?
In the same way that when I say that this paper has whiteness, that is nothing like the whiteness in your forehead.
So you're still using paper. Paper's a created thing.
I still understand it.
These are creatures. These are creatures.
Yeah, they're creatures, and we believe that.
Another creature, which is totally unlike Allah, tells us nothing about Allah. So these names and these predicates aren't telling us anything.
I'm giving you an argument to show you how they.
Your argument refers to another creature.
I'm giving you an argument to show
it referred to another creature.
It
refers to another creature. That's what's in question.
Nominalist predication is not meaningless.
Exactly.
It's not meaningless. Nominalist predication is not meaningless.
It's circular. That's the point. It's arbitrary because you're just using another created object to try to explain what is beyond the created. That's the whole point of the argument. That's what I've been arguing this whole time. And that's why your position contradicts, because on the one hand, the uncreated foot is nothing like the human created foot. But you say, oh, but it actually kind of is, but we don't know the meaning of that. So it's
we do know the meaning. We do know the meaning. Again, you're misrepresenting.
No, Ibn Taymiyyah says both things. Ibn Taymiyyah says both things that we don't. He says that it's like it. We don't know the meaning.
He doesn't say that.
Yes, he does.
He doesn't say we don't know the meaning.
Yes, he does.
Where? Give the evidence. That we don't know the meaning of what?
Because when the God foot. You know what I mean?
Show that he says we don't know the meaning. Where does he say we don't know the meaning?
What he says is that what it means is that it exists in a manner befitting Allah. That tells us nothing.
Oh, it does? So when your Orthodox Church says the exact same thing, what does that mean?
We don't say that. We don't say that. God doesn't have an uncreated foot.
He doesn't say in a your Orthodox Church doesn't talk about a God befitting manner?
Not a God befitting foot.
Does it talk about a God?
What is a God befitting foot, Jake?
Does it talk about a God?
Jake, I'm asking you.
Does it talk about a God?
What is a God? I'm asking you. What is a God befitting foot?
The same way that it's described in the text.
So no answer.
No, in the same way that
which is a circle.
In the same way that
it tells us nothing.
So
how is it described?
So Revelation doesn't tell us anything when we read it.
No, I'm asking your view.
Of course, Revelation means things when we read the words.
So you're telling me nothing.
That God describes.
You're telling me nothing.
God describes what his hands and feet actually do.
And it's what?
So you have no idea. You haven't even read our text.
I want you to tell me. You said it's creating Adam, but that's another created thing.
I'll give you a chance to answer.
Adam is not a created thing.
I'll give you a chance to answer, Jake.
His hands are not created. Neither is his foot.
What is an uncreated hand?
He said he's going to give me a chance to respond.
What is an uncreated hand?
Jay, your time is up. Your time is up. Jake. Let me respond, and then we can move on. An uncreated hand, in like manner, an uncreated essence has nothing in common. You have not shown that simply using the same word entails that there is similarity, and I've explained what an uncreated hand is. It is that by which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can grasp things, that he can create Adam with his own two hands.
That's a created thing.
No, it's
creatures. Those are creatures. Hands are creatures.
And so is God's knowledge. God's knowledge is created.
God's knowledge is a creature?
Yeah, that's what you believe, right? God's knowledge is created, right?
Closing.
It's about your position.
We have 7-minute closings.
I don't even understand basic arguments.
7-minute closings. So what
You're so mad, dude. You're so mad.
No, I'm not mad at all. You got
all right, gentlemen.
Destroyed.
I got the order wrong. So it's actually that the closings will be just as you expected. Namely, Jake will go first, then Jay will go for his closing, and then we'll go into the Q&A. So we have 7 minutes. The clock is set for you, Jake. The floor is all yours for your 7-minute closing statement.
Okay, 1 second. Okay, ready. Here we go. All right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Amma ba'd. Well, it's been an interesting debate, I can say that. But Jay, as we've seen, he doesn't understand basic Athari Aqidah. He couldn't answer whether clearly Ibn Taymiyyah is an occasionalist. I've got a book over here which I don't mind actually sending it to Jay for free, where he completely refutes occasionalism. We do believe in secondary causation, Jay, so I guess you don't know that. He didn't know the basic difference.
I didn't say that he was an occasionalist.
You're not allowed to speak.
I didn't say that. You're lying.
I do want to, I'll give you a chance to, in your closing as well, to rebut Jake, but I do want to, just for the closing statements, I want to keep it.
Yeah, I know it's hard,
separate.
Jay. You're getting refuted.
But I
Just
didn't
chill
say
out.
that.
Just chill out. All right, we're ready, James, to restart?
Let's see. I'll give you 6 minutes and 20 seconds left.
Okay, good. Here we go. So Jay can't keep quiet because he knows that he's being made a fool. And he did it to himself. He doesn't know the basic difference between tafweed al-mana and tafweed al-kayfiyya. This is basic. And he says, oh, well, your God is just a God of the Arabs. No. But if you read our literature in the same way that I know the difference between usia, which is essence, and I understand the term homoousion, I don't speak Greek, I don't speak Latin, but I understand these terms because I've read several dozen books on the subject to be acquainted with the terms. But you haven't, and that's why you look like an ignorant buffoon, because you don't know the basic difference. And that's why you're mocking right now, because it's hard on you. Everybody can see how this debate went for you, Jay. It looked really pathetic. Now, going back to the point, he didn't understand that we believe in secondary causation, that Ibn Taymiyyah was an occasionalist. Yeah, he didn't give a clear option. He said, oh, he's contradictory. He doesn't understand. And also, he doesn't, as I said, understand the basic difference between tafweed al-mana and tafweed al-kayfiyya, which is very basic. Okay, there are many things. He didn't even know what the fitra was, which is very basic to our epistemology. How are you going to critique our epistemology and you don't even know what the fitra is? It's a complete joke. Now, in terms of my arguments, he didn't respond really to any of them. On my first argument, the LPT, the Father is God, the Son is God, and the Holy Spirit's God, and they're not each other, they're distinct from each other, the same way that we count, Jay. Let me help you out. 1 plus 1 plus 1 does not equal 1, sir. It equals 3. So the Muslim mean has been vindicated. Thank you very much, Jay. And his only response is, oh, we count different things in different ways. And I asked you for an objective criteria of why we count attributes or energies and persons by identity, and we count gods by division, other than an ad hoc, unprincipled assertion. And you had no answer to that whatsoever, sir. You had no answer. Yeah, keep shaking your head. And then you claimed Jake actually counts by division. And then when I questioned you about how I count by division in the cross-examination section, you flopped so hard. I don't count by division. We count the attributes by identity, by the fact even though they're inseparable and not divided, they still count as more than one. That means we're counting them by identity, not by division. So you haven't shown that I've counted by division within God whatsoever. The only thing you have is an unprincipled way of avoiding saying that there are 3 gods, because you just don't want to admit that you're a polytheist, which everybody knows that you are, including the Roman Orthodox. Roman Catholics. Now here we go to Jay's point here, where he's refuted by the Roman Catholics, right? Here we go. Branson, again, refuted him on the claim that Branson himself says that Gregory of Nyssa believes that the essence of God, the divine essence, is universal. Jay, in one of his videos, he says, we apply that same idea to the Trinity, which is that each of the hypostases instantiates the divine nature. So they are instantiations of the divine nature. Now, Jay, don't get wrestled out of your seat now. I know they're not merely instantiations, but they do instantiate the divine essence. Nevertheless, Timothy Paul, Catholic philosopher, says about the instantiation view, there are at least 2 problems with J. Dyer's Eastern Orthodox instantiation view. This is the critique from the Catholics who believe they're polytheists. That the instantiation view has to face an answer to why the person nature question, both having to do with the conciliar claim that there is only one God. First, Consider a problem often raised against social Trinitarianism, a type of instantiation view that builds into the unity of God much more than mere instantiation. The problem goes as follows. The instantiation view gives up monotheism. When we count human people, Jay, just like I asked you how many people are on the screen, which your own church father would have said one, which is ridiculous, we count by individual instances of humanity. When my daughters, Mary, Beatrice, Edith, Agnes, each instantiate the universal humanity, and each has a proper characteristic such that we don't confuse them, what we have there are 4 humans, not a single human, like Gregory of Nyssa says. So likewise, on the instantiation count, we ought to invert the line from the Athanasius Creed saying instead that there is not one God, but 3 gods. Think about it another way. Christians wanted to safeguard the monotheism that they inherited from Judaism. Whether they succeeded is a separate question. Now, suppose a Jewish man were accused of polytheism. Here's a defense he could give on this instantiation view of the divine nature. He could say, yes, it is true. I worship the God of Israel, Baal, of the Canaanites, Dagon, of the Philistines, and countless others. But fear not. I only countenance a single universal divinity, which each of my many gods instantiates. As such, I'm still a monotheist. I don't think Moses would be impressed, Jay. This is what Timothy Paul is saying, that you're clearly just a polytheist. Now, what does Jay say about the Catholic view? He rightly points out that it reduces to modalism. And I agree. That's why the Catholic view is modalism. The Eastern Orthodox view is polytheism. They say that the truth is in between, but they're never able to explain that properly. Jay says I equivocated on power, but he doesn't believe that the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit have the same abilities. He couldn't give an even answer if the Father has the ability or power to become incarnate, because he knew that would result in them not having the same powers, in which they wouldn't be the same God. Thomas Aquinas criticizes that view in the Summa in part 3. And last but not least, Jay was not able to actually deal with the Etheri Aqidah, and it's because he hasn't even read our texts. Before the debate, he needed to delay it. So people were wondering what the delay was. It was because of him. He wasn't able to read an English translation of an unreleased book, and that's why he doesn't understand our position. Thank you very much.
Jay, the floor is all yours.
I hope Jake's okay, because the whole debate, he's basically been spurging and squirming like something's wrong over there. He's got Parkinson's or what's going on, but I hope he's okay. I didn't mean to hurt him so bad or hurt his feelings. I love you, Jake, man. Yeah, I think that, first of all, as I pointed out, when he asked me about Ibn Taymiyyah, I was clearly trying to remember exactly what his position was from the Suleiman book, and I specifically said that he allows for created causation. Jake then tried to make me sound like I was saying that he was an occasionalist. I never said that, so that was a complete dishonest lie. I said that he believes that there's real causation in the world, but he also thinks that God can intervene and do miracles. So that was a straight up lie. Just looking for anything, grasping at straws because he performed so badly. It's probably why he had to mute or take off his camera. I don't know if he's running the bathroom to take a comfort break or what's going on. But yeah, I think if we review this debate, we'll notice that the central issues that were in question, 2 ways of accounting for unity and multiplicity, as I pointed out in my opening statement, not a question of who's the true monotheist versus the polytheist, the way that Jake wanted to characterize the debate. Because if you go watch, for example, Jake's debate with Dr. Bo Branson or his debate with Dr. Khalil, you'll notice that Jake consistently had no real way to answer for the actual questions of how we account for multiplicity and unity in his conception of the attributes and the essence. I specifically gave numerous arguments in the opening statement that Jake never got anywhere near touching. He says, I didn't make any arguments. I did. I made countless arguments throughout that opening statement. I specifically pointed out that not that Jake only counts in one way. I said that when he uses the terminology of inseparability, that he's using the idea of counting by division. And it's simply saying that if you say, for example, that the attributes are undivided, or that the essence is one and undivided, that's also counting by division. That's how the ancient and medieval world typically thought, unless they were dealing with objects of first order imposition or objects of second order imposition. Again, I addressed those disputes when I covered that topic. So most of the stuff that Jake has pointed to, I did address. He just then came on and said, he never addressed nothing I said. No, I did address everything that you said. Just most of what I addressed, you just weren't familiar with, or you didn't know what these topics were. Now, again, in the topic of the universal, for us as universals get discussed amongst the Cappadocians and then post-Chalcedon, it becomes more and more specified and more clarified. So if you just ask me something like, is God's essence a universal? It really depends on what time frame we're talking about. But post-Cappadocians, post-Chalcedon and so forth, we don't usually see the idea of a universal itself in the Platonic sense being attributed to the divine essence. It's simply said to be something common. So we can say that, yeah, the divine essence is common, but universals take on a specific category of a created thing, especially in St. Maximus. Maximus, for example, argues that universals can perish, and this is in the Tolleson dissertation. Well, obviously, universals aren't the divine essence because the divine essence can't perish. And if universals can perish, then universals are created things. Now, universals are patterned on things in the divine mind. We would call those the divine ideas, but that's a different topic. But suffice to say, it's again another kind of equivocation with how the Cappadocians use the term common or universal versus the way that it's used by the Talmud of St. John of Damascus in a more precise way about created realities. So the universals dispute, however, is very important for this debate because, as we saw, Jake's denial of universals results in a lot of problems for accounting for things like meaning and identity over time. That's why I kept stressing how would Jake understand various texts of the Quran. And you'll notice when we got into the nitty-gritty of the epistemology, Jake completely collapsed. Jake went in circles. He was lost. He didn't know what was going on, where he was even at. He thought that you could say that, well, some things are self-evident. What you noticed when I first asked him, he didn't want to say it was self-evident. About a minute or two later, yeah, these are self-evident truths. But then when I asked him about the criterion problem, which is, how do we know the self-evident versus the non-self-evident? He again appealed to a self-referential thing because we know because of the way that we go about doing it. Yeah, but that doesn't justify the claim. And he knows that it doesn't. And that's why he went deeper into deflecting over into transcendental argumentation and justification. And he didn't know what a metalogical argument was, even though he admits that FDA was making a metalogical argumentation in the paper. The paper is just arguing that the transcendental argument isn't justified in the exact same way that first order types of beliefs are justified. So, and this is just to say that different things are argued for in different ways. If you watch my Matt Dillahunty debate, this becomes a very central point of dispute between us, where Matt thinks that everything is argued for in one way. Likewise, that very low tier quality of debate that Jake shares with Matt Dillahunty, they both just seem to think that words mean one thing. All arguments are argued in the same way. Justification happens in one way. Different types of things are proven and argued for in different ways. Different types of things are counted in different ways. So I made this very clear. Again, Jake didn't get any of that. And everything had to be smushed down and reduced into one simple, one-dimensional ways of understanding everything throughout this debate. So I think that if people paid attention, especially when we got to the notion of hand, foot, the bodily properties that are ascribed to Allah in his school, in his tradition, Jake couldn't tell us what an uncreated foot is that doesn't bear similarity to foot, except that it's similar in the case of functionality of creating. Okay, but the creating that you talked about, or the piece of paper that you referred to, or this or that, those are other created things. And so the created things that you keep appealing to never match up or touch upon the uncreated thing, which the Quran says is unlike, right? Allah is absolutely unlike creatures. What's that?
50 seconds.
So the argument is not that Jake believes or Ibn Taymiyyah believes that there's no way to have positive predication. The argument is that they contradict. And Suleiman points out numerous places where actually he contradicts. So Jake says, oh, he didn't read it. I was just waiting for a good book on this topic to have a good debate. So Jake's trying to make it like I was, avoiding something or whatever. No. I just wanted to have a good debate. And I went to the trouble of reading this 400-page book for you to have a good discussion and a good debate. And again, Suleiman, page 331, notes that he absolutely contradicts himself on this point. He also contradicts on this notion of what the divine perfections are, right? And so when we're told that we are supposed to know what a hand is, Every Jew or Christian in the 7th or 8th century would know what a hand is by empirically based
End
hands.
time. With that, we're going to go into the Q&A. Want to say, folks,